Race Committee. And Barbara Vosbury, my boss, is on this call. So I'm going to do a really good job today. But I appreciate everyone attending this. It's entitled An Introduction to Race Committee at SSA, but it's more than that. It's sort of a refresher of all the things we've forgotten over the past year when we didn't do race committee because of COVID. So it will be much more than an introduction. So why are we doing this? Well, basically as you're probably aware, we've got 5 units of race committee training. And this is really the first time there's been a formal training, to my knowledge. I've been a member at SSA since 1973, and I've never seen a formal race committee training program. So this is one thing that we're implementing because, well, a number of reasons. First of all, the race committee only goes out, you'll only do race committee once or twice a year. So it's hard to remember everything that you need to know. So by going through this training and also having the training on the website as a reference, you can always go back and look at it and say, well, you know, I need to bring this or that, or this is the way I sign up, or so forth and so on. So I would encourage you not only to attend this one, but even if you're not a race committee chairman or a vice chair, to attend the other ones, because you'll learn a lot of important information. Another reason for doing it now is over the past year or so, there have been a lot of improvements and changes in how we store our equipment, how we maintain it. Probably the most obvious one, if you've been to the club, is the fact that the flags on favored end are on poles that hoist up instead of having that big stainless steel frame that we used to use. And so we wanted to also get all the race committee procedures together in one place so that people could look at them, study them, and if they were going to think about becoming a race committee officer, they could use that as a reference. As I said, of course, 2020 was a somewhat lost season, and there were a number of regattas that were canceled because of COVID or run in a very, different manner with social distancing. And so a lot of us have forgotten, it's been almost 2 years since we were on race committee. So it's important that we refresh our memory. And of course, we want to maintain the high quality race committee work at the club, improve the uniformity of the race committees. And one of the missions of the Standing Race Committee is to develop new principal race officers, which were previously called race committee chairs, and deputy race officers who were previously called vice chairs. And you'll hear me referring to PROs and DROs, and that's what those 2 acronyms mean. So in terms of an outline, I'm going to talk a bit about why we're doing that, why we have to be on race committee, how to sign up, who staffs it, how long it takes, what to bring, and also when you go out from the beginning of the day to the end of the day, what you can expect. So SSA, as you know, is a volunteer organization. And so our race committee staff is all volunteers. And there's a requirement in the bylaws that the voting associate and special members have to serve 3 days. And it's a rotating basis because a third of them have to serve 4 days, but then the other 2/3 serve 3 days. So, and that rotates through the alphabet. So one year you may serve 4 days, the next 2 years you'll serve 3. Excuse me. Supporting and student members, 2 days, associate and winter members, 1 day, junior club members, no days. Now you can do that with, you can fulfill your service obligation either through race committee, club facility work, parties, special projects, so forth and so on. But of course, I'm here to talk about race committee, which I think is the most fun of all of those. So I hope that's what you'll sign up to do in terms of SSA service. Should point out that if you serve on race committee for either a frostbite or Tuesdays, they don't count towards service days. But if you sign up for a Thursday, that counts, a Thursday evening, that counts as a half day. And of course, Tuesday is the T-SODs, that's the evening One Design racing. Come on. So if you've been around SSA very long, you know that we are sort of the premier One Design racing club in Annapolis, and we are known for our excellent One Design racing and our race committee work. So as a member of the race committee, you're going to be a part of that team, and we want to maintain that excellence, but we also want you to have fun and learn about race committee if you haven't served on it before or haven't served on it much. So we suggest that you start with some of the low-key races and regattas, like the Tuesday evening, the COSOD, which we implemented last year, the COVID Sailing One Design, that's a Saturday, usually a Saturday or Sunday, informal races. Thursday nights, or the simple weekend club regattas like the spring, summer, and fall are a good place to start out and learn about race committee rather than jumping into a North Americans or a East Coast Championship or something like that, which is a little more intense. So how do you sign up? Well, the next few slides that I'm going to put up, I think are probably going to be an important reference for you because it seems to change from year to year. Hopefully we've locked into this method now, but it's through the club.severansailing.org website. And if you don't have a username and password, you need to contact Kathy at the office. So once you go into that website, you'll see a screen come up with a login over here on the right, and you put in your username and password, log in, and then you look for sign up for an event over here on the upper right-hand corner and click that, and an event calendar will come up. Now this is a sort of a demonstration, so Tip only put one opportunity for race committee in here. But the important thing is in the categories, you want to select race committee as a filter. Otherwise, you'll be able to sign up for all these regattas. But in terms of race committee sign up, you want to, in the filter category, you want to put race committee. And this is a scroll down thing that you'll have to go through. So then you select the event you want to sign up for. This is the Thursday night example race committee day. And you click sign up. So how do you register? Well, if you're a PRO or a DRO, you check those. If you have fulfilled the requirements for it to be a boat driver, you can check that. If you're just coming to serve on the race committee, you check participant. Tickets is how many people you're bringing. If you're bringing another person, that would be a 2. If you're bringing 2 people, that would be a 3. And of course, then you put in your contact information or verify it if it's already in there. Then there's the waiver. And of course, that's the whole, a lot of it has to do with COVID right now, but it also has, in normal times, it would be a much shorter, but sort of a standard waiver. So you read that, put a check in the box and confirm registration. And you're signed up. So then the next page that comes up has information about the event. And, there'll be some other information than what you see here that is important. And you can also scroll down the page and find out who else has signed up. So if your best friend forever, who is a member of SSA, has not signed up and needs to do race committee, you can call them and say, hey, I signed up on such and such a date. Why don't you come and join me? And you can see it's broken down into participants, PRO, DRO, and boat drivers. Now, if you want to sign up for TSOD, the Tuesday evening sailing one design, it's a different website shown here. And all the opportunities are shown there, all the Tuesdays from May through August. And once again, you start out by clicking for sign up an event and you go through all of that pretty much the same way that I described for signing up for a regatta. So we have a very important position in the club, and that's the volunteer coordinator. And Susan Sorokovit is the person who does that. She grew up at SSA and is very understanding of what the club needs. And so basically you will be getting emails from her or generated by her, blasted out to all the members of the club when we don't have enough race committee people or work party people or projects people to fulfill an obligation on a particular day. So she watches to see how many people we have signed up versus how many we need. And if we need more people, she's the one that generates the emails. She's also very useful when you have signed up, at the beginning of the year to do a regatta in August, and then suddenly you find out that you have signed up during a time that you were going to go on vacation and you need to switch. So she is the one that can help you swap days, change things around so it works out. If you sign up and you need to change, as I said, contact her. And she's the only one that can take you off the event list. And her email is there, as you see below. But she is the point person for all the volunteer action. And I thought I would be able to get to a picture of her, but it doesn't look like I'm going to be able to do that today. My apologies to Susan. Oh, there we go. Okay. So there's Susan.
Joe, you have to share the other screen.
I thought I am sharing.
We see the race committee thing. You need to stop the share and share again and then stop again.
Okay.
Sorry.
Thank you. You see her now?
There's Susan.
Okay, there she is. All right, stop share, share again. Okay, so who's going to be on a race committee for a weekend regatta? the the boss of it is the principal race officer, or PRO. This is a person who has served a lot of time on race committee, uh, has worked his or her way up from being a participant to a deputy race officer to a principal race officer, sometime usually trained and sometimes certified by U.S. Sailing as at least a fleet uh, officer. So this person is the one who is responsible for everything that happens to do with racing, from posting things on the bulletin board, scoring. The buck stops there. The person who helps him is the deputy race officer, and that's of course the assistant. They have also worked a lot. They're knowledgeable and experienced. And when you come down to the club and want to know which boat you're going to be on, or any question that you have about what time you're leaving, or any issue you have, this is the person to talk to, the DRO, because the PRO is going to be totally focused on getting everything together and starting the race committee out of the harbor and assigning boats and everything else. So the PRO is going to be very busy. The DRO is the one that should answer your questions. And then depending on the size of the regatta and the number of boats, there'll be 4 to 8 other members assigned to one of the race committee boats. And there's a lot of stuff you might be doing: helping with starts, setting marks, recording finishes, rescuing. And this is where you'll be as a participant. And of course, for a Tuesday or Thursday night or a COSOD, it's a much smaller staff, usually maybe 3 to 4, a couple of people on the signal boat and 1 or 2 people on a mark boat. And so the staffing that I've shown here is typically for a weekend regatta. This past year, we were very lucky to have 2 dock hands, Catherine and Leo, and you may have met them. They are paid. They come down in the morning on Saturday and Sunday and provide orientation, instruction, guidance. Where do you find the marks and the tackle and all that, and then tell you about what to do before and after racing. And so I'm sure we will have some dock hands through this year as well, and that's important. So a weekend regatta, basically you need to show up about 8:30, but the DRO may tell you to come earlier. Sometimes some fleets will start earlier, especially if it's a big regatta with a lot of out-of-town people, or if they have had a blowout day one day, they may want to get in the additional races the second day. But a typical race starts at 11, and so needs you to be there by 8:30 to load equipment and do the briefing. You'll be done after the last race about 3 or 4 p.m. But then there's some tasks to be accomplished: unloading equipment, washing down the boats, all that kind of stuff. And you can usually leave the club around 5:30 on a typical day. So what do you wear? Well, basically you dress as if you're going to go sailing. There's a code here that Jim Urban worked out, shown in the lower left-hand corner: wet, windy, cold, warm, hot, rain. And so depending on what the conditions are going to be, you would select the appropriate gear. Some things you never want to wear, like flip-flops. Jim wears hiking boots, literally walking hiking boots. That probably wouldn't be my choice, but if you want to wear those are okay too. Deck shoes or sea boots are probably preferred. But it's not necessary for you to go out and buy a bunch of stuff to be on race committee, because this is all kind of what you'd have anyway if you're going to, sail on a particular day. Personal stuff would include your lunch, water, or other non-alcoholic beverage, a gear bag. If you bring your phone, be sure and put it in a Ziploc bag, because although you're on race committee, you might end up in a boat that gets kind of wet. Sunglasses, hat, clip, and because we are in the state of pandemic that we are, we need to bring masks, sunblock, chapstick. And now let me talk a minute about the PFD. In the past, the club has provided PFDs and sometimes they've been the Mae Wests, which are the big bulky ones. We have some other ones, but we're trying to work toward everyone bringing their own PFD for two reasons. One, it'll probably be a lot more comfortable and it will fit you better if you need to use it. So you have a PFD, obviously, because you're a sailor. So please bring it, and there's plenty of place to stow it, and you'll be a lot happier with that one rather than one of the SSA ones. Here's a gear checklist. I'm not going to go down it. It's just a repeat of what I just showed, but you can use this to check off and make sure that you got everything you need when you're going to be on race committee. And of course, in the era of COVID, masks, cleaning the boat, washing your hands, sign the waiver, of course, that's part of registering. The race committees are smaller, and we are trying to have pods of people that either live together or that we trust serve on a particular boat. So at the beginning of the day, when you get there, you need to check in with the DRO. He or she has a list of who has signed up, and he wants to check off and make sure that you're there. People will sort of be milling around. They may have started to do things, but it'll be an opportunity to meet the other race committee members. And then the PRO and the dock hands will give you a briefing as to what equipment is needed, what they're going to do, boat assignments, things like that. So if you've already served a few times and let's say you've been on the Edgar D every time, you should try out other boats because what each boat does is different. The Edgar D is typically a weather-marked boat. The Huey is the marked boat at the leeward end of the course, and the favored end is the signal boat. So different things happen on different boats. And so to broaden your experience, we encourage you to try all these different boats out and different positions on those boats. So at the beginning of the day, there's equipment to be loaded, marks, tackle, anchors. Up in the office or on the second floor, there are gearboxes, briefcases, and radios. The AED and the laptop need to go as well. And if we're using the rib that particular day, that needs to be launched. And then when everything is said and done, and we're close to leaving the dock, you should just look around and be another set of eyes to make sure that all the necessary gear is gotten on board. And that would, of course, be the safety gear, the radios, the iStart, spare batteries, et cetera, et cetera. We typically leave the dock if we're racing out in the bay 1 hour before the race. And sometimes we'll send out a boat early to check the condition of the wind. If it's either heavy or particularly light, to go out and see if the conditions are saleable out on the course, either in Area A or Area C. So a word about marks and anchor crates. One of the new improvements is that the marks, which used to be stored under the stairwell in the snack bar, have now been moved around to a shed on the street side of the club. And so they're in here, and the tackle is just across the way from them. And they're trolley carts because the tackle, all these boxes have anchors in them for the marks. And so they're a bit heavy, and to make life easier, there are trolley carts to bring those mark crates down to the club. So the first test is, what is the correct way to drag these marks and other large equipment across the parking lot? The answer, of course, is never drag anything. And that's why we have the carts, and the marks are relatively light. You can just carry them or lay them on top of the crates and use the little cart to take them down to the boats. One of the big improvements has been to color coordinate the marked bridles with the anchor crates. So if you look at the tetrahedron, it's a little more obvious. For example, here, you see the bridle is yellow. So you want a yellow crate to go with it. The bridle of a tetrahedron is going to be red, and so you want a red crate. The bridle of an orange ball or a flag on the line is going to be green, so you want a green crate. So the PRO or the DRO will tell you which marks they're going to use. So then they will ask you to take those marks out of the storage area, get the appropriate tackle, and take it all down to the boat. So here's the marks and tackle, and inflatable marks. They're marker balls, and you can see the red bridles here, and that matches the red boxes for the tackle. Here's yellow tackle for the marker balls. So during the day, what are you going to be doing? Well, it depends on which boat you're on. It's important that you let the DRO or the PRO know if you have some physical limitations. And if you have a tendency towards seasickness, please bring medication. You're not much use if you're feeling extremely ill and hanging over the side of the boat during a start. All the boats will probably be setting, moving, and retrieving marks, and all the boats will render aid if they're required or requested. An important point is that the only toilet out there is going to be on the favored end. So be prepared. Do the last trip to the bathroom before you board the boat, so that if possible, you can last the whole day before you need to go again. So you're going to see this set of slides again, because this is one of the most important things that the race committee does, and that is setting the marks. So how do you set a mark properly? Well, first of all, you don't tow them around, except when you're streaming. And what I mean by streaming is that to get a mark in the right position, you essentially pay out, you put the mark in the water, and you pay out the line that is attached to the mark, keeping the anchor in the boat. And the marks that you'll be setting per the PRO's instructions are usually the weather mark and the starting mark. The offset mark is pretty obvious, and the leeward mark it doesn't really need the PRO's instruction to tell you where to go. So listen for the PRO's instructions as to where to put it and how to separate them. So a point is that the people underestimate distance and overestimate speed. So if the PRO asks you to move a mark, he probably wants you to move it relatively quickly. So rely on the PRO and his or her instructions to get the mark set properly. So the first step is to make sure that the tackle is packed in its crate. And I'll go into that a little bit in a minute. Step two, put the mark and counterweight first, deploy that mark, but always keep the line away from the motor. Otherwise, you have a mess, and in some of the boats, you can't just raise the outboard motor to disentangle it. So with the boat moving slowly, you pay out the line, and you keep the line with tension. You don't just throw it all in the water and let it drift under the motor and get fouled in the prop. So as it pays out, keep your hand on it and let it go. So you want the line, of course, to stream past the end of the boat, not near the engine. And if the line starts to go under the boat, tell the boat driver, because he can shift into neutral and avoid wrapping it in the prop, which is a big mess. Once you get the mark paid out, basically as it pays out, you want the mark stationary, and you're paying out the line at the same speed that the boat is moving forward. And of course, once again, we emphasize, make sure it doesn't get near the engine. Fifth step, when you get it all the way out and all you have left in the boat is the anchor and the line in your hand, you tell the driver that it's at the full stream. You hold a position with the anchor over the edge of the boat, and the PRO will tell you to drop. And don't have any extra line, because the point is that the PRO or someone who is sighting that mark with a compass, when you drop that anchor, that mark is not going to move. The anchor will go to the bottom, and the mark will stay in the same place that the person who was sighting it with a compass wanted it to be. So if you have extra line, it'll drift back. So the PRO will say drop, and you just drop it. You don't throw it. You just drop it off the side of the boat. And like I said, the mark will stay in the same place. The anchor will drift down, and it will be okay. So let me go over some of the boats that we have and what you would be doing on each of them. Favorite end is typically the signal boat for a weekend regatta. This is the boat where the PRO will be, and directing the race committee for all the on the water issues and radio communications. And it's this boat that records check-ins, runs the starts and finishes, records boats that are over the line, records the finishes to leeward, and hoists and lowers the signal flags. The Edgar D is typically the weather mark boat, and that boat will set the weather mark and its offset, monitor the course and the roundings, and record windward finishes if it's a windward course. Many times, if the weather is a bit extreme, the PRO may want the Windward Mark boat to count the number of boats that round and make sure it's the same number as started, so that there's no issue with boats that might be in trouble on the course. And so that's an important job for the Windward Mark boat. The Huey, our latest addition to the fleet, is the Universal Mark boat. And that boat sets the starting mark, basically all the marks down at the leeward end, the leeward gate and finish marks. I often have the Huey anchor at the leeward end of the starting line to watch for OCS boats. And then once everybody's off and racing, to monitor the course and make sure no one's getting in any trouble. I'm going to try to see if I can get rid of that. No, I can't. Okay. The rib is used sometimes, and that is another mark boat. It can set the starting mark or actually be the starting mark itself if it hoists a flag, and the PRO wants it that way. It can set the leeward gate and finish mark and watch for OCS boats and so forth and so on. An important job for that, for the rib, is to follow the fleet and render aid if required or requested. So you've been out, run 3 successful races. Everybody's happy, good winds, square course, and we're come back in. So what do? Well, number one, we need you to help dock the boats. If you've been on race committee, you know
Joe, you're on mute. Can't hear you.
Okay, am I back?
Yep, you're back.
Okay, thank you. So at the end of the day, getting especially the favored end into its slip, it can be a bit of fun. So you'll need to grab lines, help pull the boats in and dock them and tie them up. Unload the equipment, especially the marks and tackle. Pack anchor, line, and counterweight in the crates. Nowadays, we rinse and disinfect everything and return it to the storage area. And a word about packing crates, and this is important. You may think it's a little picky to do it this way, but this is the way it works. I mean, when you need it, it works well. So first of all, you put the anchor in the crate, flake the line on top of it, and make sure no line goes under the anchor. Then you put in the counterweight on top of the line. And then finally, you put the rest of the line on top of the counterweight and clip the line, the end of the line, to one of the crate handles, as you can see there. So at the beginning of the day, you need to check and make sure your crates are packed this way, because if you're deploying a mark out on the course and they're not, you can get a snarl and things can go south very fast. Other things to do at the end of the day, the rest of the race committee equipment needs to be unloaded and taken to the second floor of the clubhouse and disinfected. Need to scrub all the boats down. If we've used the rib, we need to wash that down, remove it from the water, and cover it up. And of course, last minute check. Don't rely on the PRO or DRO to do this. We need a whole set of different eyes to make sure that important stuff has not been left on the boats, like safety gear, radios, batteries, the eye start, so forth and so on. Well, you're done. And now it's time to have some fun. Get your free beverage from the snack bar, hang out with the race committee and the racers, and talk about how things went out there and enjoy the time with your new friends. So as I said, we've got 5 units of this. This is the first unit. I believe starting next week is the mark and pin boats, followed by the signal boat, and then the what to do when things go wrong, which is should be a fun one. And then a on the water course unit in how to handle the power boats. So if you miss one of these live Zoom classes, obviously you all didn't miss them, but some other people might have. And they're all going to be cleaned up and posted on online in April, and the links to those will be distributed. So at the end, we want to encourage you to come and have fun. Have as much fun as Jeff is having here, and join the race committee. And so at that point, I'm happy to answer questions if anyone has them. So let me stop sharing and we'll open up. So you can unmute and ask a question or put it in the chat or whatever you want.
It was brought up about turning the battery switches off. I'm pretty sure that's covered in the next one.
Yeah,
One of the next 2 for each boat, but
right. It's more boat specific than
we were going today.
we're doing that today, right? So there are 27 chats. I'm just scrolling down to see if there's any questions in here.
Thanks for doing this, Joe.
Oh,
Yeah.
Thanks, Chris.
So Joe, with COVID, has there been a change in the number of people that we would typically see on a race committee? Has it gone down? Have we figured out anything new? Are we learning something new? Thanks.
Well, last year, yes, things were quite different last year. I ran the J22 and J24 East Coast Championship with basically one other person on the main committee boat, my son or my wife. And instead of using the 5-minute Rule 26 sequence with a lot of flags going up and down and the usual starting sequence, they wanted to just have a 3-minute sequence where everything was straight sound, three horns to start the sequence and so forth and so on. So the race committees were smaller. We were trying to make sure that people who served on race committee were with people from their household, especially in the beginning of the year when we weren't as knowledgeable about what was going on with COVID as we are now. I'm not sure what I'm sure in the early part of this season, the same sort of thing will be going on, and hopefully as more people get vaccinated, that we can begin to get back to more normal race committees and more normal racing. But at least for the early part of the season, I think we're going to be still having small race committees and the 3-minute rule starts and things like that. And I'll see if Barbara has anything to add to that.
Thanks, Joe. I was actually just going to interrupt you. I think our goal this year, because we don't know what's going to happen with COVID, the goal this year is to prepare as if there will be not a COVID restriction. So we'll try to fill the race committees out as if we had no COVID restrictions and people were okay with it. that being said, we're encouraging people to sign up in their groups in case we have to go back to only 2 or 3 people on a boat. So Alex McPhail, if you want to bring your wife down and bring her down for the day and take out one of the boats and just be the 2 of you on the boat, that would be awesome. We know you can handle the boat. We know you can handle setting a mark. But if we're not restricted by it, we're going to go with a larger group. But we're prepared to go back to the pared down race committees.
Yeah, thanks. That was very useful and good to know. Thanks.
We actually last year found quite a few couples who came out and did it, and I think they enjoyed being in the boat on the water all day together and doing what the other one likes to do. So it was kind of fun, and we got to meet the spouses, which we don't get to meet very often. I'm done.
So, any other questions? Well, looks like not. And so I would like to thank you all for coming and encourage you to, Jim Urban is going to do the next one on the mark boats, and then I'll be back to do the signal boat. And then Jim gets to talk about when things go wrong. And so all of these should be fun. Obviously, it doesn't take up a whole evening. And since you don't have to drive to the club, that makes it even easier. So look forward to seeing you next week. And thanks for joining us.
Well done, Joe. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks, Joe.